company accountant slides a letter across the table. $4,000. That's what he's disputing. $4,000 on a construction invoice he swears is padded. He wants an audit. A forensic audit. Every nail. Every hour. Every single line item going back years. So the project manager says, okay. He stops every active project. He pulls every file. He checks every receipt. And when the dust settles, that company doesn't owe $4,000. They owe $19,000. The project manager sends the bill with a 3-word note, per your request. There's a certain kind of person who looks at a tradesman and sees a servant, someone beneath them, someone who can be pushed, insulted, shortchanged. These people make a critical error. They confuse patience for weakness, because the men and women who work with their hands, they've been solving problems since before you knew you had one. They know the rules better than you. They know the codes, the contracts, the weight limits, and when you push them too far, they don't yell. They don't argue. They comply. Tonight I've got 3 stories from the trades. 3 arrogant clients. 3 expensive lessons. The first one thought he knew better than the guy operating a 50-ton loader. His axle had a different opinion.
So I've been running heavy equipment for about 14 years now. Loaders, excavators, dozers, if it's got tracks or a bucket, I've probably put a few thousand hours on it. At the time of this story, I was working at a gravel quarry in central Ohio. Nice gig, actually. Steady work, decent pay, and most of the truckers who came through were professionals. They knew the drill. You pull up. You tell me what you need. I load you. You sign the ticket. You leave. Simple, right? Now, here's the thing about loading trucks, and I cannot stress this enough, there are weight limits. Legal weight limits. The kind that exist because, I don't know, the Department of Transportation doesn't want overloaded trucks snapping axles on the highway and killing people. Every trucker knows this. It's literally their job to know this. You get caught running overweight, you're looking at fines, points on your CDL, maybe losing your license altogether. So when a trucker tells me to top him off, I check the scale. If he's close to the limit, I tell him. If he's over, I stop. That's the job. Enter our villain. This guy rolls in on a Tuesday afternoon. Brand new Peterbilt, all chromed out, custom paint job, the kind of truck that screams I make payments I can't afford. He hops out and he's already got an attitude. Sunglasses on even though it's overcast. Toothpick in his mouth. Walks up to my loader like he owns the place. Hey. I need 40 tons. Quick. I look at his rig. I look at him. 40 tons is gonna put you way over legal. I can do about 28, maybe 30 if you wanna push it. He laughs. Not a friendly laugh. The kind of laugh that says, who is this idiot? Listen, buddy. I'd been driving longer than you've been alive. Just fill it up and let me worry about the weight. Now, I'm 46 years old. This guy was maybe 35. But sure, man. You've been driving since you were -11. Math checks out. I try one more time. Look, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job. But if I load you past 32 tons, you're gonna be running illegal. And that's on you, not me. He pulls down his sunglasses and stares at me like I just insulted his mother. Did I stutter? Phil. It's up. I've got a scale ticket from last week at 42 and I was fine. I know for a fact that's not true. But you know what? I'm tired. It's almost end of shift. And this guy is clearly not going to listen to reason. So I shrug. You got it, boss. I start loading. 1 bucket. 2 buckets. 3. Every time I drop a load, I can see his truck sinking a little lower on the suspension. The tires are starting to bulge. This is not subtle. He's standing there with his arms crossed, nodding like he's won some great victory. 4 buckets. 5. My buddy Dave, who runs the scale house, walks out with a clipboard. He takes one look at the truck and his eyes go wide. He looks at me. I just shrug. Sir, Dave calls out. You're at 41,000 on the trailer alone. You need to stop. The trucker waves him off. I said, fill it up. One more bucket. Dave looks at me. I look at Dave. Dave writes something on his clipboard. I later learned it was documentation that the driver was verbally warned and refused to comply. I drop one more bucket. The trucker climbs back in his cab, all smug. Fires up the engine. Puts it in gear. And then he makes his fatal mistake. He tries to pull forward. See, when you're overloaded by 15,000 pounds, certain things happen. Physics things. The kind of things you learn about in trucking school, which this guy apparently slept through. He gets about 20 feet before I hear it. The rear axle doesn't just break. It snaps. Like a chicken bone. The whole back end of that pretty Peterbilt drops onto the gravel like a puppet with its strings cut. Gravel goes everywhere. The trailer's listing to one side. One of the rear tires actually pops off the rim and rolls about 30 feet before falling over. And this guy? This guy just sits there. For a solid 30 seconds, he doesn't move. Doesn't get out. Just sits in his cab, staring straight ahead, probably watching his career flash before his eyes. I climb down from my loader. Pour myself some coffee from my thermos. Lean against the tracks. Dave walks over. We both just watch. Finally, the trucker gets out. His face is the color of a tomato. He's shaking. And he starts screaming at me. You did this. You overloaded me. I'm gonna sue. I'm calling the cops. I take a sip of coffee. Sir, I have you on camera demanding a full load. Dave has you on paper refusing to stop at legal weight. And I warned you 3 times. He goes quiet. Also, I add, you're currently blocking our exit lane. So you might want to call a tow truck before you call a lawyer. The aftermath was beautiful. His company dropped him because the damage to the truck was close to $80,000 and insurance doesn't cover. Driver literally demanded to break his own vehicle. He got a DOT violation for the overweight. Points on his CDL. And last I heard, he was banned from every quarry in a 3-county radius because word travels fast in this industry. As for me, my supervisor bought me lunch the next day. Said it was the most entertaining thing he'd seen in 20 years. The lesson here? When someone who operates heavy equipment for a living tells you something weighs too much, maybe listen.
41,000 pounds on a trailer rated for 26. You know what that is? That's not confidence. That's not experience. That's a man who confused volume for authority. He thought if he yelled loud enough, physics would bend to his will. Physics disagreed. But here's what I find fascinating. That loader operator. He didn't argue. He didn't fight. He just complied. Gave the man exactly what he asked for. And that's the thing about skilled tradesmen. They've seen 100 guys like that trucker. 1,000. They know that sometimes the best way to teach a lesson is to let someone fail. Our next story takes that principle even further. Because if you think a broken axle is bad, wait until you meet the electrician who decided to follow every single code in the book. The homeowner wanted perfection. He got it. He just didn't realize what perfection costs.
I've been a licensed electrician for 11 years. Residential, commercial, a little industrial. I've seen it all. And I want to be clear about something. I have no problem with clients who ask questions. I have no problem with clients who want things done right. That's actually great. That means they care about their home. What I have a problem with is clients who think watching YouTube videos makes them an expert. This story takes place about 3 years ago. A buddy of mine who does general contracting calls me up. Hey, I've got a full rewire job. Older house, new owners. They're doing a complete renovation. Good money. You interested? I say sure. He gives me the address. I drive over, do the estimate. The house is nice. Built in the 70s, good bones. But the electrical is original. Cloth wiring, 2-prong outlets, the whole deal. Definitely needs updating. The homeowner meets me at the door. Mid-40s, polo shirt, Bluetooth earpiece even though no one's calling him. Already taking notes on his iPad before I've said a word. Let's call him Derek, because he looked like a Derek. "So you're the electrician," Derek says. Not a question, a statement, like he's sizing me up. "That's me. Let's take a look at what you've got." We walk through the house. I'm pointing out issues, explaining what needs to be replaced, giving him options for panel upgrades. Standard stuff. The whole time, Derek is correcting me. "Actually, I read that you don't need a dedicated circuit for that." "Are you sure that's the code? I saw a video that said." "My neighbor's electrician did it differently." I'm patient. I explain. I cite the actual NEC codes. I show him the documentation. Derek nods like he's humoring me. "Okay, but I want this done right. I don't want any shortcuts." Famous last words. I give him the estimate. $12,000 for the full rewire, panel upgrade, all new outlets and fixtures. Fair price for the scope of work. He haggles. Of course he does. We settle on 11/2. I schedule the work. Now here's where I need to explain something about electrical work. When you're running new wire through finished walls, you have two options. Option 1. You can fish the wires through existing paths, use flex bits, minimize the holes in the drywall. It's more time-consuming, but it keeps the walls mostly intact. Option 2. You cut access holes. Lots of them. Every junction, every turn, every connection point. It's faster for the electrician, but someone has to patch all those holes afterward. Most electricians, when working with reasonable clients, do option 1 as much as possible. We try to minimize damage because we're professionals and we're not trying to create extra work for anyone. But Derek was not a reasonable client. Day 1 of the job, I'm drilling a small pilot hole to fish a wire, and Derek appears out of nowhere. "What are you doing? Why are you drilling there? Is that going to damage the wall?" I explain the process. He watches over my shoulder for 2 hours. Every single thing I do, he questions. "Why that wire gauge? Shouldn't that be deeper? I don't like how that looks." By day 3, I'm ready to walk off the job, but I need the money, and I've already bought materials. Then Derek does something that changes everything. He calls my contractor buddy and complains that I'm cutting corners and not following code. My buddy calls me, confused. "Hey man, Derek says you're not pulling permits and you're doing hack work. What's going on?" I'm stunned. I've pulled all the permits. I've documented everything. I've followed code to the letter. But you know what? If Derek wants code compliance, I'll give him code compliance. Malicious code compliance. See, the electrical code doesn't say you have to minimize drywall damage. The code says every junction needs to be accessible. Every connection needs to be inspectable. Every splice needs to be in a box. So I stop fishing wires. Completely. Every single run, access hole. Every junction box, access hole. Every splice point, access hole. I'm cutting neat, code compliant, 4-inch by 4-inch access squares every 18 inches along every wall that has wiring. The master bedroom, 14 holes. The living room, 22 holes. The kitchen, I lost count at 30. And here's the beautiful part. Every single one of these holes is required for me to access the junction boxes I'm installing. The code says junction boxes must be accessible. I'm making them accessible. Derek comes home on day 5 and nearly has a stroke. "What did you do to my walls?" I'm calm, professional. I've got my code book in hand. "Derek, you expressed concerns that I wasn't following code. So I've adjusted my methods to ensure complete code compliance. Every junction box is now accessible per NEC 314.29. Every splice is inspectable. Your electrical system will pass any inspection guaranteed." His face goes through about 7 colors. But the drywall. "The drywall is the drywaller's scope," I say. "My scope is electrical, and the electrical is perfect." He starts stammering about how I'm supposed to patch the holes. I pull out the contract. Section 4, paragraph 2. Contractor is responsible for electrical work only. Drywall repair, patching, and finishing are the responsibility of the homeowner or separate contractor. He signed it. He didn't read it, but he signed it. Derek called my buddy screaming. My buddy came out, looked at the work, and actually laughed. "Derek, this is the cleanest electrical job I've ever seen. It'll pass any inspection. But yeah, you're gonna need a drywall guy." The inspection happened 2 days later. The inspector walked through, looked at the access holes, looked at the wiring, and said, "I'm not kidding. Wow, I wish every electrician made my job this easy." Perfect score. Not a single violation. Derek had to hire a drywall contractor to patch and refinish over 160 holes throughout the house. The quote, $8,400. More than half of what he paid me for the entire electrical job. And the thing is, if he'd just let me work, I would have fished those wires through with maybe 15 or 20 small holes total. A few $100 in patching. But he wanted perfection. He wanted code compliance. He wanted to micromanage a licensed professional. He got exactly what he asked for. I heard later from my buddy that Derek tried to leave a bad review online, but when he described what happened, people in the comments roasted him. So the electrician followed code perfectly and you're mad? Sounds like a you problem, Derek. Sometimes the customer isn't right. Sometimes the customer is Derek. Don't be Derek.
160 holes. You know what I love about that story? The electrician didn't break a single rule. He didn't cut a single corner. He did his job perfectly. That's the thing about compliance as a weapon. It's untouchable. You can't sue someone for following the rules. You can't report someone for doing exactly what they're supposed to do. Derek wanted oversight? He got oversight. You wanted code? You got code. You wanted perfection. Perfection costs $8,000 in drywall. But here's where it gets interesting. Our final story isn't about a single annoying client. It's about a company. An entire company that decided to play games with a contractor's invoices. They demanded an audit. A forensic, line-by-line, every single receipt audit of years of work. They thought they'd find fraud. They found something else entirely. They found out they'd been getting the friend discount, and they just canceled it.
Alright, so I need to set this up properly because there's a lot of history here. I run a small construction and renovation company. Been in business for about 16 years. Mostly commercial work, office build-outs, retail spaces, restaurant renovations, that kind of thing. About 8 years ago, I started working with a property management company. Let's call them Greenfield Properties. They own a bunch of commercial buildings in our area, and they needed a reliable contractor for tenant improvements and maintenance work. For the first few years, the relationship was great. They'd call, I'd quote, we'd agree on a price, I'd do the work, they'd pay within 30 days. Simple. The thing you need to understand is that when you have a long-term client relationship like this, you give them breaks. Not official discounts, just, you round down instead of up. You don't charge for small stuff. You eat some costs because you know the volume makes up for it. Over 8 years, I probably left $20,000 or $30,000 on the table with Greenfield. But that's fine. That's business. Loyalty has value. Then, about 2 years ago, Greenfield got bought by a bigger company. New ownership. New management. New attitude. The new operations manager was this guy named Mitchell. MBA type. Never worked a job site in his life. Looked at every invoice like it was a personal insult. He started questioning everything. Why did this take 4 hours? Why do you charge for disposal? This material cost seems high. I explained. I documented. I provided receipts for everything. But Mitchell wasn't interested in explanations. Mitchell was interested in finding fraud. He was convinced that every contractor was ripping off his company, and he was going to be the hero who caught them. Things came to a head on a tenant improvement project. Standard stuff, we were converting an old retail space into a dental office. Demo, new walls, electrical, plumbing coordination, the works. The project came in at about $42,000. Right on budget, actually a little under. Client was happy. Tenant moved in on time. 2 weeks later, I get a letter from Greenfield's accounting department. They're disputing $4,000 of the invoice. Mitchell claims that we overbilled on labor hours and that some of the material costs were inconsistent with market rates. I'm annoyed, but okay. I call Mitchell. I explain that the hours are documented, the materials are receipted, everything is legitimate. Mitchell says, and I'll never forget this, we're requesting a forensic audit of this project. And frankly, given the irregularities, we may need to audit our entire history with your company. Irregularities? There are no irregularities. I've given this company 8 years of honest work and friendship pricing. But I keep my cool. And I think about it. You want an audit, Mitchell? A forensic audit? Let's do an audit. I call my accountant. I call my office manager. I call my foreman who's been with me since year one. Clear the schedule. We're auditing Greenfield. For the next 2 weeks, we go through everything. Every invoice. Every work order. Every change request. Every material receipt. Every hour logged. 8 years of files. Hundreds of projects. And you know what we found? We found that I'm an idiot. Not in a fraud way. In a too nice for my own good way. We found time and materials that were never billed. Change orders that were absorbed instead of invoiced. Emergency calls that we did for free because we've got a good relationship. We found a $2,200 after-hours HVAC repair that got lost in the shuffle and never invoiced. We found $4,600 in material upgrades that the client requested and we just did without adding to the contract. We found $3,100 in permit fees that we paid and forgot to bill back. We found $6,400 in labor for punch list items that went beyond scope, but we did anyway because we wanted them to be happy. On and on. Project after project. Year after year. My accountant looks at the final number and starts laughing. Not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh you do when you realize you've been way too nice for way too long. $19,247. That's how much Greenfield owed us. Not the $4,000 they were disputing. An additional $19,000 on top of everything they'd already paid. I draft the most professional, most petty email of my entire career. Dear Mr. Mitchell, per your request for a forensic audit of our billing history, please find attached a comprehensive review of all projects completed for Greenfield properties from 2016 to present. Upon review, we have identified the following unbilled items, totaling $19,247. Additionally, our audit has confirmed that the disputed $4,000 charge on the Riverdale Dental project was accurate and properly documented, as supported by the attached time logs and material receipts. Therefore, the total outstanding balance owed to my company is $23,247. Payment is due within 30 days per standard terms. We appreciate your commitment to accurate accounting. Best regards. P.S. Per your request. That P.S. was the cherry on top. Per your request. You asked for this, Mitchell. You demanded this. You got this. The silence lasted about 4 hours. Then my phone rang. It wasn't Mitchell. It was Greenfield CFO. The actual money person. Hi, this is Sharon from Greenfield. I just received a rather extensive invoice. Can we discuss? I explained everything. Calmly. Professionally. I walked her through the audit methodology, showed her the supporting documents, explained that every single dollar was legitimate work that we'd simply failed to bill over the years. Sharon was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "So you're telling me that Mitchell demanded an audit, and the audit revealed that we owe you more money?" "That's correct." Another long pause. "I'll have a check cut by end of week." They paid. Every cent, $23,000 and change, including the original disputed amount. But here's the thing, I also terminated the relationship. I sent a formal letter ending our service agreement. Politely, of course. Due to recent concerns about our billing practices, we feel it's best to part ways so that Greenfield can work with contractors they trust. Translation, you question my integrity after 8 years of loyalty. We're done. About a month later, I ran into one of Greenfield's property managers at a supply house. Nice guy, had nothing to do with the Mitchell situation. He told me that after I left, they went through 3 different contractors in 6 months. None of them gave the service I did. None of them answered emergency calls at midnight. None of them ate costs to maintain the relationship. Oh, and Mitchell? He got reassigned about 4 months after the audit. Turns out when your cost-cutting crusade costs the company 20 grand and loses them their best contractor, the executives notice. The moral of the story? If you've got a contractor who's been good to you for years, maybe don't accuse them of fraud over $4,000. Because the audit you demand might reveal something you didn't want to know. And that friendship discount you didn't even realize you were getting? It's gone.
3 stories. 3 lessons. A trucker who thought he knew more than physics. A homeowner who thought he knew more than an electrician. A manager who thought he knew more than 8 years of trust. All 3 of them made the same mistake. They looked at the person across from them and saw someone to dominate. Someone to push. Someone who would bend because they had to. They didn't see someone who knew the weight limits. Who knew the codes. Who knew exactly how much they'd been leaving on the table. There's an old saying in the trades, the cheapest work is the work done right the first time. But there's a corollary to that. A darker one. The most expensive lesson is the one you demand to learn. That trucker demanded to be overloaded. Cost him 80 grand in his career. That homeowner demanded code compliance. Cost him 8,000 in drywall. That manager demanded an audit. Cost him 19,000 in his job. So here's my question for you. Which story hit the hardest? The axle? The holes? The audit? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you've got your own story, a time when some arrogant customer learned the hard way, I want to hear it. Best ones might end up in a future video. Subscribe if you haven't. That bell icon isn't just decoration. Because the next time we meet, I've got stories about neighbors. The kind of neighbors who think property lines are suggestions. They're about to learn otherwise. Until then, respect the trades. They build your world. And they can bill you for it.